The glorious city. The violet-crowned city. Athens. In this video, we look for the top 10 things to do in Athens. Stay with us. Hello everyone. This is AWZ. Welcome to our channel. Don't forget to subscribe. Enjoy. If you're anything like us, visiting the cradle of civilization is like being a kid in a candy store. We could eat as many Doric and Ionic temples, statues, vases, and archaic figures as we wanted before we got exhausted. You can find ballad discs from ancient Greek courts in museums, and you can stroll into the theater of Dionysus, where Euripides and Aristophanes presented their plays, or traverse the Agora, knowing that your path will be the same as Plato and Socrates. But Athens is much more than an archaeological monument, from the modern city's jungle of concrete skyscrapers to Plaka, a maze of lanes built over ancient Athens residential districts. Hills like Mount Lycabettus and Philippopos Hill punctuate the cityscape, providing a bird's-eye view of the Acropolis on its rocky seat. Let's have a look at the greatest things to do in Athens. 1. The Acropolis. There isn't much we can say about Athens' old fortress that hasn't already been stated. The Acropolis is located on a rocky outcrop above the city and has world-renowned classical landmarks that people wait their entire lives to see in person. The Parthenon is the most famous, but the Propylaea, Erechtheion, and Temple of Athena are other must-sees, and you can skip the lines and learn fascinating facts and tidbits about ancient Greek democracy and philosophy with a registered guide. The path is steep and slippery on weathered marble until you reach the flat peak, and be prepared for cranes and scaffolding, which are an understandable requirement for a World Heritage Site. Two, the Parthenon. The Parthenon is a symbol of Western culture and Athenian democracy, and is regarded as the greatest achievement of the Doric order and classical Greece's most significant building to survive to the 21st century. The Parthenon was dedicated to the goddess Athena and built in 447 BC, when the Athenian Empire ruled the Aegean. It was co-designed by Actinus and Callicrates and served as a city treasury before becoming a church in the 6th century and a mosque in the 1460s. Some of the Parthenon sculptures were infamously robbed by the Earl of Elgin at the beginning of the 18th century and then sold to the British Museum, where they still reside. The Acropolis Museum that follows features the remainder of the ancient frieze and pediment sculpture. The Parthenon is a symbol of Western culture and Athenian democracy, and is regarded as the greatest achievement of the Doric order and classical Greece's most significant building to survive to the 21st century. The Parthenon was dedicated to the goddess Athena and built in 447 BC, when the Athenian Empire ruled the Aegean. It was co-designed by Actinus and Callicrates and served as a city treasury before becoming a church in the 6th century and a mosque in the 1460s. Some of the Parthenon sculptures were infamously robbed by the Earl of Elgin at the beginning of the 18th century and then sold to the British Museum, where they still reside. The Acropolis Museum that follows features the remainder of the ancient frieze and pediment sculpture. 3. Ancient Agora of Athens. The Agora, which was reserved for trade and public gatherings, was the center of classical Athens and is protected by the Acropolis to the southeast and the Agoreos Kolonos Hill to the south. It was designed in the 6th century BC and is a large site containing the ruins of around 30 buildings and monuments. Download a map, take your time, and let your imagination run wild. Hire a guide to explain the old customs that formerly existed where you stand, such as ostracism, in which possible dangers to the state were sent into exile. Four, Temple of Hephaestus. The Temple of Hephaestus is a Doric peripteral temple that sits atop the 65-meter Agoreos Kolonos hill on the northwest side of Athens' Agora. It was constructed in the second half of the 5th century BC, although work was delayed for 3 decades due to funding and labor being diverted to the Parthenon. The temple was designed by Actinus and dedicated to Athena and Hephaestus, the ancient god of fire, metalworking, forges, sculpture, and stone masonry. It includes 6 fluted columns on its west side and 13 on its north and south sides. There are also numerous sculpted pieces, ranging from the labor of Hercules on the east side to the Pronaos and Opisthotomus, which depict Theseus with the Palantides and the fight of centaurs and Lapiths. 5. Panathenaic Stadium. The Panathenaic Stadium, erected for the 1896 Olympics, is a modern replica of an ancient stadium built for the Panathenaic Games in 330 BC. 200 years later, the Athenian Roman senator Herodes Atticus would recreate the original monument in marble. The Panathenaic Stadium, with its U-shaped plan, is an almost perfect duplicate of the 2nd century BC structure, and it, too, is made entirely of marble. During the 2004 Athens Olympics, it hosted archery events and served as the finish line for both the men's and women's marathons. The stadium has a capacity of 45,000 spectators and offers views of the Acropolis and the National Garden from its upper tiers. 6. Arch of Hadrian. Hadrian's Gate, also known as the Arch of Hadrian, is a magnificent landmark in the middle of Athens. This doorway is conveniently positioned between the Acropolis and the Temple of Zeus, making it an easy addition to your Greek sightseeing itinerary. The inscriptions on each side of the arch indicate that the huge marble gate served as a barrier between ancient Athens and Hadrian's new city. A visit to this gorgeous symmetrical site is a must for any visitor to Greece's capital. 7. Temple of Olympian Zeus. Not much of this temple east of the Acropolis is still intact, but what is left is more than enough to show how large it once was. The construction of the Temple of Olympian Zeus began in the 6th century BC but was not completed until Emperor Hadrian's reign in the 2nd century AD. The dominant order at the time was Corinthian, and the 15 surviving columns of an initial 104 include scrolls and acanthus motifs. The temple was demolished during the Herulian sack of Athens in 267, less than a century after it was constructed, and its stone was mined for other city buildings. 8. Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. A cenotaph honors all Greek soldiers who died in battle beneath the front of the old royal palace in Syntagma Square. The monument was carved in the early 1930s, combining French Empire design with Athens' own ancient architecture, as well as current Art Deco, which is especially evident in the relief. The tomb is guarded by the Presidential Guard's Evzones, elite infantry, and there is a modest changing of the guard ceremony every hour on the hour. Inscriptions on the stairs and wall flanking the monument chronicle engagements from the First and Second Balkan Wars, the Greco-Turkish War, the First World War, and the Second World War. 9. Temple of Apollo at Delphi. The Temple of Apollo stands out among the other majestic remains that dot the southern slopes of Parnassus Mountain. It is an outstanding Doric temple whose existence was intertwined throughout the site's turbulent history and which underwent multiple incarnations before settling to the ruined state we find it today, and which dates back to the 4th century BC. Trophonios and Agamemnon, two renowned architects, first built the Temple of Apollo about the 7th century BC. After a fire in the 6th century BC, it was rebuilt and renamed the Temple of Alcmeonidae in honor of the rich Athenian family that oversaw its building with finances from all around Greece and foreign monarchs. This temple, too, was of the Doric order, with 6 columns in front and 15 columns on the flanks. This temple was devastated by an earthquake in 373 BC and rebuilt for the third time in 330 BC by Corinthian architects Spintheros, Zenidoros, and Agathon. Praxias and Androsthenes, Athenian sculptors, created the statues that ornamented its pediment. It had the same proportions and size as the Alcmeonidae temple, with a peristasis of 6 and 15 columns along the short and long borders, respectively. 10. Santorini. Stunning Santorini is the most spectacular of the Greek Isles. It is most known for the clifftop settlements of Phyra and Oia on the west coast, which appear to hang over a deep, blue sea-filled caldera. Both Phyra and Oia are regarded romantic places, popular for weddings and honeymoons, and are made up of characteristic cycladic whitewashed cubic buildings, many of which have been turned into boutique hotels with infinity pools. Sunbathing and swimming at the black volcanic sand beaches on the south and east coasts, as well as visiting the archaeological site of Akrotiri, an ancient Minoan settlement buried beneath lava following the volcanic eruption that created the caldera 3,600 years ago, are among the things to do in Santorini. The island has an airport and is accessible by ferry and catamarans from Athens port of Piraeus. Isn't Athens beautiful? Drop your comment below. This is all for now. Check out other videos on our channel. Enjoy.